Let me into my zone. Let me into my zone. Please don't let me into my zone. 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 Please don't.
Ring ring ring, Herald Priest, and welcome back to the magical Krown crypto, a good dildo cave.
Whoa, hey, family friendly. What the fuck did I say about that? Goddamn, man. Well. I don't even need to say it anymore, but welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave. It feels good. It's a nice little Sunday morning over here. A very rainy Sunday morning from Helsinki, Finland. Wishing you well as always, and want to follow up from yesterday's video. Bitcoin breaking some of the more critical areas that we spoke about yesterday, and some of the more downside objectives are now going to be initiated. So we're going to be talking about targets on that and invalidation points as well. As always, there's no like 100% way of doing some. Unfortunately, despite what some market gurus might say. Other than that, I want to say massive thank you to everyone who came out for the Twitch stream yesterday. That was super fucking fun, and looking forward to doing another one very likely tonight. I'm open to new suggestions for games as well. It was very cool to be watching like Bitcoin on one screen and then watching, the action on the other screen. And we actually got to watch the breakage of that critical level yesterday. So for the people who caught that, for the people who were short during that stream, congratulations. Massively cool. I'm always happy when people make money from this community. Just happy when people make money in general. Like why fucking not, man? Doesn't take away from me. And with all of that said, I do want to make sure that I talk about the Krown trading app, which is coming out in about maybe about 10 days. Actually, we are getting near that Christmas time, which we're kind of aiming for a release around. And I want to say that the base application is going to be 100% free, and it's going to be available, more importantly, to all platforms. So no matter what venue you're on, whether it's an iOS, whether it's Android, whether it's PC, whether it's PC Master Race, whether it's what's the other one, Apple, Linux, whatever the fuck system you're operating, it will work on that. So very excited about that, and I believe we're still currently on schedule for around Christmas, and we'll be bringing the jewel back as well. So with all that said, I would like to wish you the best of the best and the happiest of the happiest. I want to get into the price action right now because Bitcoin is moving. Actually, we've actually seen a couple moves here and there to and fro. So I'm going to hit that live scene button, teleport me in, baby, and there she is, Bitcoin on the daily. And let's actually start with the lower time frames today. I'll try to keep this analysis on track. So yesterday we were looking at this level right here, right? This blue box territory, basically saying, this is kind of the critical area, right? We're looking at a descending triangle on mostly the medium and lower time frames, and that was the critical point at which this would be considered broken. So we actually did see this break again yesterday on the Twitch stream live below this 7120-ish resistance right here. So support. As long as we're living below there now, I do deem this a full-on break. Now, there's a couple things with this. I am very apprehensive to say that's, I'm a little bit apprehensive to call this a break right now because one, it happened on a weekend, which typically weekend price action is more, is more floaty, and I'm not a big fan of it. We want to see like the big boys trading. We want to see CMEs confirm it as well. But hey, it did happen, and we have seen it, follow through in the past, and then also not getting follow through from price action this fast is not necessarily the best sign. It's not a terrible sign, of course, as well. And coming back up to retest the former support as resistance thus far would be a good sign for the bears. But of course, it's a little bit too early to judge that one. We still got about 23 minutes and 11 seconds on this 4-hour dildo. So as long as we are below this level, 7120, I'm happy to be short myself and be overall bearish on this, and look at the measured move of this ascending triangle coming in all the way down to about 6,650, 6,700, down around here, down towards our last prior low. So I am bearish right here. I am short, and I'm happy to be short as long as we remain below this region right here. Not only did we break this ascending triangle to the downside and also market structure, but also the 618 Fibonacci retracement right here from the high to the low, from the low to the high of this past bounce. So with that said, we are breaking, we're breaking structure, we're breaking pattern, we're breaking also major fib. And we haven't really seen the volume that I'd really be looking for to denote like a major breakdown or breakout. So this is a little bit iffy right here. I think what's likely to happen is that we're gonna have to wait till CMEs open up a little bit later today at 5 p.m. Eastern time and get our weekly close for spot price action to really confirm this. So what I'm looking for now, going over here to the weekly, is basically any sort of a close below this cyan 89 exponential moving average right here, which is currently at around 7250-ish region. Any sort of a close below there, again, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Tonight, then I would be looking at this as likely to get further fall through to the downside. Not only that, but this would confirm this point right here as another local high. And if we just set another local high and a lower high, then we're likely getting ready to, well, we're not just likely, we are getting ready to trend down at the very least to the last prior low, which would be right around that 6,600 number, which is in line with a lower time frame measured move. Now, I do think that it's likely that we probably have a small bounce somewhere around 6,900 perhaps. Also a great number. I think that was based off of some of the higher time frame supports, maybe like the 2-day 200 simples coming in right around there, and the 3-day 200 simple as well. So all those things, likely do get some play off them. But at the end of the day, I do think that Bitcoin's kind of wearing out its welcome at this $7,000 region right here. So I want to go back onto Electric Avenue. No, I want to go back on over here to my long-term or at least my Finex chart, which does show that we still do have this head and shoulders very much viable within within Bitcoin land, as long as we are living below the neckline of this head and shoulders. The head and shoulders is not only in place, but it's also confirmed broken down, and the measure move on this head and shoulders would be pointing all the way down here towards the 886 Fibonacci tracement down around about 4450-ish region, also in line with this horizontal from the breakout of the last accumulation period in late 2018, early 2019. So great structure, would line up with a lot of other different things, and again, that is valid as long as we are living below the neckline of this, the green 55 exponential moving average right here. Let me just make sure that I'm recording. I actually recorded like a whole fucking video, and I wasn't recording, so I couldn't fucking, god damn, man. Jesus Christ. Late morning for myself, I suppose. Anyways, what we're looking at right here is a big deal. So not only are we potentially going to break the Cyan 89 exponential moving average today, but we could also break the 618 from the macro, right? The macro being the last prior low that we set in at about 3,100 to the current high of about 14,000. And that would be confirmed again with any sort of a weekly deal to close below 7250-ish region, 7,300. And that would be essentially the Cyan 89 exponential moving average as well. So a lot of things going on here. And if we do close below that region, I would be overall bearish. Could we get another rally back up to like 71, 7,200? Yeah, perhaps. But overall, I'd probably be looking for that to be a sell. Right now, Bitcoin is kind of fighting this one off. So I do think it's a little bit premature to kind of call this one either which way. But Jesus Christ, man, there we go. Well, I actually might do it right now. But we will be seeing the next 4-hour deal to close, and maybe even 8-hour. I believe the 8 hours close. Yes, the 8-hour will be closing as well. So if we do see it close back above 7120, this actually could come pop back up another $50 to $100 back up into this region here. But of course, still a lot of things can happen between now and the next 19 minutes and 0 seconds. So 19 minutes even. So we'll likely be able to watch this one together. And if we do end back above there, I probably would be looking for another test back up, a little bit higher into the higher to that zone. And could this be a fake out to the downside? Yes. I mean, it did happen on the weekend, of course, but I would really look to the weekly closure that's coming up a little bit later today to really confirm or deny this. So could it be that we actually do pop back up here, get back above like 7,250, 7,300, and then the weekly's, salvages itself? Possible. Yes. And that would make me, less immediately bearish. But here's the thing, we are in the middle of December, and I do want to keep an eye on the higher macro timeframes, that being the monthly. And looking at the monthly right here, we do see that we're being held by the 10 simple, and we are dancing around with the 21 exponential moving average, a very, 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 very dangerous dance, so to speak. As what I used to do in traditional markets as a market maker authorized trader was to use the 21 exponential moving average on a monthly to kind of judge the long term of a stock. Are we generally bullish or generally bearish? And you can see that actually works pretty damn well for Bitcoin as well, even though Bitcoin doesn't have the same sort of history as most stocks do. But it's getting more and more mature, and I would imagine that this is only going to get better over time. But when we're above it, generally good. When we're below it, that's your very not so good times if you're bullish. And basing off this, in the way that we are right now, as momentum oscillators turn down, which I'll show right now, it's not the best sign. Looking at monthly Stokes, rejecting the bullish control zone and opening down, not good. Looking at monthly RSI, really not good. Rejecting the bullish control zone and then losing the exponential. Looks to me like at the very least it wants to test back down here towards the edge of the bearish control zone. Not only that, but it's the weekly that's also quite concerning for me as well. So not only do we have all those structural things kind of in place right now, but we do have the weekly jewel, which is telling you to hodl your shorts. Told you to short over here in early mid-July. Tells you to hodl your shorts or re-short actually, even around 11th of November to 18th of November. And usually expect some big price action from that. Looking at weekly RSI, it's getting comfortable in the bearish control zone. Not good either. Weekly Stokes looking like they want to cross down. Not fucking good. All of this is happening if all of this potentially getting worse if we do close below this cyan 89 expansion average right here. So that's a big thing that I'm looking for at the end of the day. And if we do have that happen, I would at the very least be expecting a test back down to probably like 6,650, 6,700. Could it be that we actually reverse from there? Yes, I do want to always say that while there are certainly things pointed lower here, I do take the market one step at a time, and each and every one of these levels to the downside is a potential reversal point for me. Very, very likely bounce point, but potential reversal point as well. And that includes one that we're currently basing off of right here at about 6,600, our current low of this dumpy dump. So, that's a big thing for me. I'm not here to be like the market fucking crystal baller. Like that's not real trading. I'll leave that up to the market analysts who have no fucking skin in the game. No, this channel is dedicated towards the traders. And could it be that we do break this area here today and then come back down here and then reverse from there? It's possible, yes. But the way to call a reversal on Bitcoin has been more or less the same throughout the history of Bitcoin. Anytime we've changed the weekly trend, and this goes back to the genesis, those have been your major massive moves, both the upside and the downside. Anytime we've confirmed a downtrend on the weekly, 70% down or more. Anytime that we've confirmed an uptrend on the weekly, like hundreds or in some cases even thousands of percent to the upside. It's really fucking impressive shit. So So of course, Bitcoin at its current posturing to make an uptrend would have to get back above about 95, 9,600 that get, take out this former high right here. The thing is that if we actually do close below the 89 later today, and we do see this weekly get a little bit of fall through, then this will be our last lower high right here, and we could actually put that next point, put that higher high point, technically higher high, at around 75, 7,600ish region. So as long as we are below there, it would be more or less bearish. And let me just see. Do I want to do anything over here? I feel like let's see. Hold on. Price action moving fast, man. God damn. So you can't even get in if you want to. Can't even do it if you wanted to. All right. Anyways, hold on. Can I get in? I feel like there's. All right. Well. God damn it. I keep on typing in the wrong thing. And of course, if you know me, you know that I can't type and talk at the same time. All right, cool. Anyways, I'll deal with that later. It's not really that important right now. Well, it's kind of important to be fair, but there we go. Okay, cool. So that's a big thing that I'm watching for Bitcoin. If we do close below there, I'll continue to be quite bearish and be looking for this to ultimately crumble through. So let me just make sure. Okay, it looks like I actually did get hit. Nice. Okay, cool. I'm trading my main account right now. In case you're wondering why I'm not actually showing my position, and that would be why. Anyways, let me get rid of that. Okay, cool. Alrighty, beautiful. So yeah, let's go over, okay, where was I? We're talking about the weekly, we're talking about the longer term. I do think it's also worth mentioning that volume profile kind of shows the same sort of areas, of course. If you put this baby on right here, sorry, let's go back onto the same chart. Jesus Christ, man. Fucking hell. God damn, that was fast. Jesus. This thing's moving fast right now. Back up to almost 72. Anyways, so yes, the volume profile also agreeing with these areas as well. We do see the 6.8 kind of outlined by this area right here. We do our current area that that we're kind of being rejected by. We see a major volume node shoved right in at our current like 65, 6600 low. And could we bounce off that area again? Yeah, potentially, absolutely. And we don't really see anything around the 786 in the mid fives, which does lead me to believe that Bitcoin actually does get attracted to that region. Now, the way that the volume profile works, it shows you where the interest is, right, from a past historical standpoint. And the idea is that assets like to float towards areas of assets like to float towards areas of higher liquidity. So it coming back into this region right here and kind of filling this area out to figure out who's in there and who's not would actually make a lot of sense from a structural standpoint. from a longer term perspective, of course. So looking at that, Bitcoin coming down to that region, because we never really spent any time within that region, historically speaking, but it is a 786 Fibonacci retracement, would make sense to kind of figure out if the market actually does like that area, if people are interested there. And then of course, the area that's most thick right now, or thick AF, if you want to call it that, is down around in the mid to low 4,000s, in line with that measured move and in line with the 886 Fibonacci retracement, which is actually where Bitcoin did bottom out in, sorry, if we go back on over here to this chart, which is where Bitcoin actually did bottom out in 2014 and the prior market cycle before that. So it does have a history of actually playing off that one. But as you can see right here, we got a lot of work to do before we get there. And of course, like I said, all of those potential all of those major areas that I've outlined, I treat as potential reversal points, until told otherwise. That's just the way that I found to do it as a trader. Anyways, what else do I want to talk about? Let's go see how the lower time frames are shaping up right now. 4 hour came back up, tested around the 21, still being held below though. What our momentum oscillator is looking like here. We see 4 hour Stokes getting a little bit tired, but still down. What about 10 and 12 hour? How are these guys doing? Here's your 10 hour. 10 hour is flipping around a little bit. 12 hour is flipping around a little bit as well. Inconclusive. I do really think it's going to be important to wait for this next, this next weekly closure to really confirm or deny this move. We get these quick wicks up on Bitcoin all the fucking time. And it's not really revealed until like a couple hours later if it's actually going to get sold off or not. We've seen the whole walk down from especially this area right here on this major wick up to 10.5. Each and every time that we get one of these quick wicks up, and get sold off afterwards, that's your continuation play. So are we getting another one right here? Potentially yes, as we are still maintaining the downtrend. So I do want to talk about what happens if this is a fake out to the downside. What if this is a fake out, right, or head fake right here? Well, this would first be denoted by like a 4 hour dildo closing back above, let's call it like the 618, like 7120-ish. So I'd feel a lot better with like 7150 personally. But if that were to happen, I'd probably look for it to fill out this ascending triangle a little bit more, probably trade back up into this blue box territory right here. Again, it's not a trade that I'm interested in. Trading to the upside here is very difficult and very delicate just because, well, it's a fucking downwards market. I mean, it's the real reason. Until we actually get an uptrend on the weekly, I'm gonna have a very difficult time taking longs, like real longs. Not just like scalp longs. Of course, you can scalp a range and not really give a fuck about the long-term trends. Completely, it's all preference, but I think that's completely fine. But over here, there's just all sorts of fuckery going on. So I would be very defensive against that. Anyways, so. Okay, what else do we want to talk about? Let's go over here to the 12 hour. What do we see here? We kind of already discussed that. Let's go back to the daily. Of course, daily, all major moving averages are bearish. All lower periods are trending below higher periods, and all lower periods are getting divergences from higher periods, strengthening the trend to the downside, as you can see. The last one of note was the Cyan 89 exponential moving average moving below the 200 exponential moving average. Happened about a week and a half ago, and now they're actually quite far away from each other. The 55s getting ready to cross the 377. Less important to me. I don't include the 377 in that because Bitcoin's a little bit too new for it, and it's just less reactive. It's not really for that. But if everything did get below that, I mean, that would be quite nasty. I mean, that is kind of what we had in at the end of 2018 right here before 6,000 to 3,000. Anyways, my point is that we're seeing a full-on bearish splayed effect of all major moving averages as the 200 simple, this white moving average right here, does start to get a negative slope sustained over a period of time. The last time that we saw something like this happen was back on over here in 2018 in May on this rejection from 10,000. Bitcoin gets rejected by the 200 simple to the upside, kind of similar to what we saw right here. A little bit different, but similar. And it doesn't need to, I'm not making a fractal here. That's not the case that I'm constructing. I'm just constructing it from a straight up moving average perspective with relationship to price action. Then we get the death cross right here on the exponentials between the 55 and the 200. And we get all lower periods trading below higher periods shortly after that, right on over here. Bitcoin then gets a short little rally up to the Tesla 21 a couple of times, rejected all the way through, and then major move down. It does pop back up later to retest the 200 simple, but by that point, the negative slope on the 200 simple, that's very, very nasty. So going back into the more recent times on Bitcoin, very similar thing going on right here. Death cross, all major moving averages below, or sorry, all lower periods below higher periods, right around here. And we're seeing the 200 simple start to slope down as well. So, if Bitcoin does get another rally back up, like one of those extended rallies, I don't think it gets anywhere much past like the 200 simple. And of course, where's the 200 simple? That's at 9,400 right now. That's actually below our last local high, our last lower high as it stands right now. Of course, this could change just as soon as earlier tonight. So that would just put a lot of downward pressure on price action from a long-term perspective. And we'd have to, chew through this area before we even create a fucking higher high, which would suggest that we probably don't change around the trend anytime soon, unfortunately. So yeah, again, another not so nice thing about Bitcoin going on right now. What else do we want to talk about? What about the 55 and the 377? Do we have anything to make out of that? I haven't really done a diagnosis on this. I would assume probably not. But I'm curious. I'm curious what it's going to look like. What is it going to show? 55 and the 200 right here. No, not that helpful. 55 and the 200 right here. Not helpful. Yeah, I don't think it has a good history. And you have to call a spade when looking at stuff like that. It's the 377's too high of a period for it to really be able to show all that much on Bitcoin. I do think that it's going to take a bigger seat, probably in the next coming 5 years. It just needs more data to really populate itself. But for right now, it's good for overall trend. When we're above it, good. When we're below it, generally bad. But I don't really look for crosses on it or anything like that. And right now we're obviously below it. So yeah, the tides of Bitcoin still moving to the downside. If we did get some sort of a major rally, I don't think that we get past 93, 9,400 really, at the very most, and even 8,500 I think would be pretty damn significant. But all major moving averages also have down slopes right now. Same thing that we looked at right on over here. It's just not good. And it's not to say that this is a fractal. It's just when you have all of your major moving averages having negative slopes, think about what that means. They are moving averages. They are averages of price action. If all of them are down, we are trending down. That's just a little cheat code for that. But because these things have become such a fucking meme in this market, unfortunately, we tend to forget, myself included, the actual definitions of these things and what they're derived from. So never mistake that, as that does make trend trading quite a lot easier in my opinion. Looking at CMEs here, we have the death cross officially initiated on the exponentials between the 55 and the 200. Could we have another rally back up and test around maybe the 21 or something like that? Yeah, possible. We're still kind of in this sunny triangle on CMEs here as well, but that's usually your insightful point if this is going to play out or not. And in this case, I'd have to say that any sort of a rally that fails to get back above the 200 simple especially is just a failed rally. That's all it is, just a bear market rally. So looking at Bitcoin right here on the daily, looking at CMEs here on the daily, we're likely to, again, it's too early to call something like this. This is why I'm gonna enjoy doing the evening Twitch streams, because it'll be closer to the close for the open for the next CME or the next week of trading for CMEs. It's too early to call it right now, but as it stands, we would have a down open on CMEs, which if we do have a down open on CMEs, if we gap down from this formation, that actually is usually going to be a very good, insightful way of deeming the pattern broken to the downside. In this case, we do have a descending triangle right here on a daily, and I don't know, it'd be I'm going to take a more conservative estimate of this one. This would be pointing us back down to about 6750-ish region. And if I want to take a more aggressive measurement of that, I'd imagine it'd probably point all the way down towards here, towards 6550-ish region. So, it's still very much in play. And if we are going to officially break this sunny triangle to the downside, I actually do think that it happens this week. And I do think that we'll get that open to the downside, and we will get continuation before we pop back up and retest that. In fact, popping back up and retesting it sooner would be a bad sign. Bad sign for continuation for the bears, to be fair. Of course, everyone has different dispositions here. So yeah. Anyways, let's talk some long-term Bitcoin for a second, as it is a long-term analysis day, although this video is already pretty long. Looking at moving averages on the weekly right here, which has gotten things very, very well in the past. We do see the red 10 symbol crossing below the yellow 21. Anytime that we've seen that cross happen, that's your long-term downwards market. If we take it from the last high to the next low, you could look at it like this. about 68.25% down. After that cross happens, I mean, you could also, well, yeah, you could look at it like that. Times before that was this guy right here on that example, another 77% down about. The time before that was this guy right here, take the prior high to next low, about 70%. Time before that, well, we didn't really have one right here. But more importantly, actually the slopes of these guys get it even better. So when both of them have a negative slope, that means the yellow and the red, that has been good enough to take us from our last high to our next low about 70% on average. So right here, so that'd be 20,000 to your next low right here. That was a 70% move. Then we got another one right here after a brief stint. We just looked at that one about 6-7%. The time before that was, again, this guy that we already looked at right here, 75%, 77%, something like that. This guy right here, of course, that we already looked at as well, 71%. And then this guy right here as well. So it gets this one too, 76%. And I'm just curious because we do have that same sort of thing going on right here. If we were to shave 70% off current price action, where would that put us down around? Or on the lower echelons, like upper 60s, mid to low 4,000s. So there are things pointing down there. And not only that, but if we do go over here to the Bitcoin VWAP ratio, we can see that this signature that, I've spoken a lot about this over like the last fucking 3-4 months maybe now. I think it's time for me to not go over this every fucking week. But if you want the full-on explanation of this, just go to the last long-term analysis video and I'll go over it. But basically we do see all the moving averages on the VWAP ratio below the regression point that my cursor currently is on right now, in the same signature that's produced all 70% retracements or more in the past, with just the purple below the pink below the regression, has already obviously happened. And again, the last time we had this was right in over here. We just measured that one out, 70% or 68%, whatever it was. Then before that was this guy right here, 20-6. Another 70% down. The time before that was this bull trap right here, 70% down. The time before that was this guy right here. Time before that was this guy right here. And time for that was this guy right here, but that was like 90% down. Whoops. Whoops. What the fuck was that? It's just like this little thing that I was holding is from my camera, but I don't know. It feels good to play with something. Anyways, so with regards to that, more and more things kind of pointing in that direction. I feel like there's more things that I'm forgetting right now, but fair enough, fair enough. I think we've probably beaten this horse to death. What else do we want to look at? Let's go look at the difficulty ribbon for Bitcoin, another fundamental indicator, and it is contracting on itself, of course. So what does that mean? Well, we typically do contract all the way into the next halving date, right? So we see the same thing right here. Bitcoin actually kind of, contracts on price action as well. And we see the same thing right here into this halving date right here. But the thing is, and what I want to show here is that, one, we only have two iterations. We only have two iterations of past halving dates. So when people make this relationship between halving date and Bitcoin having to go up, no pun intended, I just think it's a little bit unfounded. We don't really have enough history to deem that a trend. I mean, 3 times makes a trend, of course, and the trend is your friend until the end of the trend. And we don't really know what that is right now. So I think people are kind of like drawing conclusions from not all that much. And because this is one of those things that like people expect now, people like, almost like demand that Bitcoin goes up into the halving because, it happened in the past, because fundamentals, well, think about it. Like everyone else is thinking the same thing who's in the market. They are making the same decisions as you, given the same information, because we all pretty much have that same information. I mean, anyone who's done a simple Google search, it's not like it's private. It's not like it's private information. It's not like it's insider information. It's public. And if it's public, then that means that both you and I have access to it. So it's reasonable to assume that we are operating off of the same assumptions and that we're going to make the same decisions from that. So, that's how something can get priced in, beforehand. Or perhaps we just get something new going on. We don't really know the effect of it anyways. That's my whole point with it. So, the halving day is something that I think, the fundamental investors, hodlers for long term will talk a lot about, but I don't think that anyone truly understands it right now. I think that it's a little bit too early in the game, and also, just explain this price action right now then. I think what's more important, what makes the most sense to me, is that the Bitcoin miners have to deal with this the most. It's not really like Bitcoin investors. Like Bitcoin investors have already made their decisions based off this, but Bitcoin miners, likely have not, or at least the less sophisticated ones have not. The more sophisticated ones, the better ones probably have, and they are the ones who are going to end up soaking up all of the cheap equipment that gets washed out into the market soon enough when all of these guys, basically can't run their operations anymore. But the halving date mostly affects the miners, right? They're putting out the same amount, it costs them the same amount to create one Bitcoin, but they're getting now half that. They're getting half that instead of getting a full, or getting, what they're getting right now. They're going to get half of what they're getting for the same energy output. So their costs go massively up for the same production. And that means that people who have not planned for this are going to be massively fucked. And so they are probably, leading up into this, realizing that they're either not going to be profitable and they have to sell off, or whatever they have to do in order to cover themselves to stay afloat, is going to likely be by selling, what's going on right now. Perhaps it is that they're selling futures against their positions, and covering themselves that way so that they can potentially lock in something beforehand. But again, the market's too big. Even as small as the market is, it's too big to say a blanket statement for everyone. But I can imagine that would be a major fundamental point that would make a lot of sense, actually. So fair enough. Anyways, all right, looked at all of that. Been here about 30 minutes. Holy shit, man. Video's flying by. Okay, cool. What else do we want to look at? Do we want to look at the Bitcoin RVT ratio? RVT ratio is also showing a little bit of downside here as well. We typically bottom out where my curse currently is right now. Although again, longer term, how helpful is this when we don't really have all that much to go off of? Bali is working on a few really, really cool things. So we'll actually be able to show this in a better way, I think, relatively soon. But for right now, you can see that historically speaking, it gets quite low when it's right around here. And that typically actually does call the lows. And right now we are downtrending, and well, that would likely include a retest of the lows, or around the lows at least. So again, another thing kind of suggesting we're downside. And what's up, Anthony Riccio? Good to meet you, man. Welcome to the cave, my friend. I feel like it's been a while. It's like no one subscribes to this channel anymore. Anyways, let's see. Let's go check out the other top market shitcoins and see what they're doing, and make some comparisons here. Mr. Buterol, same chart, just kind of drooping on down. Has a nice ascending triangle on the daily, of course, as well. Let's actually put this in. Oh, Jesus Christ, man, what is going on here? Hold on, my lines are all fucked up. Let's do these magical lines right. If you're gonna make your living based off of magical lines, you might as well do it right. Something like this. Still kind of working on its ascending triangle. I wouldn't say that it's broken just yet, but it is testing the bottom side of it. Does it bounce here again before maybe breaking down? Perhaps yes. Momentum oscillator is coming down quite hard. Historical volatility percentile very, very low. So we're going to be looking at a relatively big move relatively soon. Daily Jewel could set up actually, but we need a very good reaction today. Today or tomorrow would need a very good reaction. Otherwise, continuation is the name of the game. What about a 4-hour? Moves up with Bitcoin. Still downtrending though, unfortunately. A little bit of bullish divergence here, but I believe that the easy target on that has already been met. What about Mrs. Litecoin? What do we have right here? Same thing, pretty much same thing. Although, let's see. Let's draw this on a daily. Yeah, daily, if we're drawing this as a descending triangle, it's already been broken. We're coming back up to retest it right now. Could it be that we're looking at a fake out? Maybe. See what the daily jewel looks like here. Daily jewel on Litecoin actually looks a little bit more like it could actually work out. That's the one that looks most likely to actually work out. Bitcoin, not so much. Mr. Buterol, not so much. But Litecoin, potentially. But then again, if I'm looking for, if I don't think that Bitcoin's going to work out, do I think that Litecoin's going to work out? Probably not. Daily RSI, bearish. Daily Stokes, probably going to cross back up. So if we do have a fake out, it does happen from here, very likely. But I still think the weekly close is going to be the ultimate decider. Stellar is continuing to downtrend. We have new lows on this run. That would be a bad sign. Typically, this market does move together, of course. Monero took out last week's low. We didn't see that before. So that happened last night, I'm guessing. Yeah, that did happen last night. Just popping back up to test the broken support, potentially as resistance. So far, so good, or not so good. What about Ripple? Ripple is very sloppy here. I don't really have a strong opinion on this. It's going to do whatever Bitcoin does, most likely. Overall bad. Overall on a downtrend. Really not too much stopping it from these lower levels, actually. Bitcoin does break down, I would expect to see Ripple in the teens, in the high teens. EOS, what's EOS doing? Same thing as Buterin. Neo, a little bit stronger than the other ones. Getting a little bit of buy action down here. Probably some bullish evidence on the daily. We do. It actually kind of looks like it wants to test back up towards 920. I think we said that yesterday. We actually did get that test, 923. Does it do it again? Maybe. Tron, same thing. It's going to do whatever Bitcoin does. Bcash, same thing. Actually, still working on that descending triangle. Zcash is actually rallying, but I do think that we just put another lower high right here. Very likely. So yeah, going back on over to Bitcoin. Let's start to wrap this bitch up. Going to be a little bit of a faster video today. Let's go down to maybe like an hourly. See, how did we close that hourly? We did close it back above this region, so fair enough. But an hourly is probably not good enough for me. So yeah, I suppose I'll wrap this one up by saying, hey, I'll go over the lower time frames, but I really don't trust them that much here. If the 4 hour technically did close above this horizontal, I mean, depending upon how you kind of cut it, of course. But I mean, it's right there. For me, I want to see really the weekly confirm or deny this move. Do we bounce up from this region short term? Maybe. I'm not concerned with that. That's less important to me than the long-term consequences of this. We broke this last night, of course. We haven't really seen follow through. It is on a weekend. Volume is certainly not confirming either. But what I want to see to confirm this is a weekly close below the Cyan 89 exponential moving average. If we can do that below about 7250, then I do think that we get continuation down to that lower target around 6650, 6700-ish region. And probably even below that over time. But for right now, what we could also say is that if Bitcoin does close above this 7250 pivot, I would look for it to probably have another week trading back up, probably towards like 7500-ish region, probably test around 7550 at the very least, and then we'll come back and reassess from there. Of course, weekly trend isn't changing around anytime soon until we will quite literally create an uptrend, and lower time frames are very tricky here. They're very, very tricky. We do see bifurcation among the market. We do see that some are in complete meltdown. We see that some are still kind of holding their bearish formations. Again, they're still bearish formations to be fair, but hey, this is a game of patience right now, unfortunately, and I feel like a lot of people in this market, myself included, are starting to lose their patience. I mean, it's hard to watch day in and day out for Bitcoin to just do basically nothing, but I would remain overall bearish from a short and medium time frame perspective as long as we are below this last little local high, 7250. That's also going to be on the weekly close later tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern time. If we close below there, I would be looking for continuation in this next week to the downside. If we close above there, I believe we will likely test back up, probably somewhere right around 7550. Sorry, I forgot to look at expected moves chart today. Yeah, we did hit the bottom side of the first deviation down around 7,000 yesterday. Nice. What else do we have to make out of this? Top side of the first deviation coming in right around 73. I don't really have that lined up with anything else. Let's see. Does that line up with anything else? Kind of our last little local high right here, to be fair, on like a lower time frame. But man, that's not what I want to be comparing to. Yeah, I don't have a strong opinion on that right now. I mean, technically speaking, it would be more air towards the side of the downside, of course, because, well, the bottom side of the first deviation, which is within the 68% percent possibility of happening, is below our next major support, and obviously below the critical pivot on the weekly. And even to get to the top side of the first deviation, which would be 7,300 region, which is just about $50 above that pivot on the weekly, would be still within, it's less likely that we get above there. So we'd close like right on it and then move up, maybe possible. But again, the probabilities are really less than like, what would it be, like 32% to that side. And just to that side would be like 16% now, wouldn't it? Anyways, going back on over here, I'm getting all over the place. But yeah, looking at Bitcoin right now, I mean, did we just see another one of these quick wicks up and then likely to get further fall through to the downside? I think that's probably the most likely thing to happen here. Although I'd really be keeping an eye on the weekly, just because, well, the weekly is less likely to lie. Lower time frames on a weekend, a lot more likely to lie. So while we did actually see the break, I do think it could it still be a fake out. I'd wait for the weekly. I think less likely, but hey, I am happy to wait this one out And with all of that said, still getting pushed down right here, it looks like. With all of that said, I think it's time for me to wish you a nice and happy Sunday. I'll be back on Twitch later tonight, and then hopefully we actually catch some price action again, because I feel like this stream has been kind of unhelpful because it's basically just like a wait and it's basically like a wait and see for the weekly, in my opinion. But with a downside twist, I mean, I am short here, and I'm happy to hold short a little bit longer. I really do want to see that weekly. I probably will de-risk if we do close another 4-hour dildo above about 7120-ish region. But until that happens, I will just be mostly watching and eating a shit ton of food, man, because it is Sunday and I would like to brunch with Elsa. So with all that said, man, I'm wishing you well over here from a dark Helsinki morning. I'll be back on again later tonight, and until then, take care and see you soon.